Hi, I'm Darlene Carman.
And I'm Doug Carman.
Welcome to the show. Syndi Seid, founder of Advanced Etiquette, shares her expertise on business protocol and etiquette with major corporations all over the world. Etiquette in Minutes is her book, giving practical tips covering business and social situations. Today's show is slanted for young adults, but the rules of courtesy and good behavior apply to everyone. Hey, welcome back to the show.
Oh, so great to be here. Great.
We learned from a previous guest who teaches ballroom dance in high schools that the children were very, very anxious to learn about courtesy towards each other, and they actually like to practice it. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. We all acquire skills through practice. So the earlier actually that we all can learn certain etiquette skills, the better, because you want it to become a part of you as a regular habit, no different than you can practically crawl in a bathroom and brush your teeth correctly now. We've been doing it for so many years. Yeah. So absolutely.
Well, he actually said it was more important than the dancing. Yeah, because the children, they feel, well, young adults feel awkward at that age anyway. And so this kind of made them feel like they were more in control, I guess. You think that's it? More powerful?
I do. I mean, it's kind of a combination. By taking a ballroom class, young people learn how to feel comfortable touching, a boy and a girl, together. You learn the common courtesies of how to ask a boy to dance, or for a young lady to say no if she doesn't want to dance with the boy. And the steps themselves, teaches you great coordination. So yes, I think it's a combination of all these things but if you're going to talk about the courtesies of it all, these things transcend into your regular life. So
yeah,
sure.
That's true.
From your vast experience, teaching etiquette, what is the hardest thing for teens to adopt? Let's say, eye contact, their poise, or maybe the posture, and more importantly, introductions. What aspect do you think is the hardest for them?
I think the hardest thing, partially because it's not reinforced, is a combination of posture and eye contact. So I brought along a couple of slides to illustrate it, 4 different slides, so maybe we can take a look at them.
Yeah. That will help.
Okay, so the whole thing about posture, take a look at the upper left slide and you're seeing this young man just slouching through a business meeting. I mean, the idea that so many people just don't realize how you're being perceived, through a meeting versus the woman there sitting up nice and straight and tall. And then later on, when you get into a business meeting, the gentleman with the white shirt sitting more in the front, he's got what is known as a figure 4, kind of a leg cross. And that's considered a very vulgar position by international cultural standards. So let's see the next slide. The idea that eye contact, too, is really important. That the upper middle one is the way you really should gaze at people, looking at the left eyeball, the right eyeball, and up and beyond. But anytime you start looking down, as in the lower left one, then it becomes more of an informal or a casual kind of gaze. And then the lower right one, when you start looking too low, then it's not all that great, especially when you get cross-gender. So the next slide shows the idea, especially the upper one, of course, is giving great eye contact, even though she's got elbows on the table. The idea that she's giving good attention to the person who's speaking. And the lower right ones is just a fun slide because women often get so shy through interviews. So the idea that, she's tilting her head, perhaps the interviewer gave her a compliment and saying, you've got a great suit on or whatever, and she's, oh, thank you so much. And she tilts her head, she totally loses presence, with that. You should keep your head straight up, parallel to the table or the floor. And the last slide here in this series is the idea that when you're sitting through and talking to someone, you must give them good eye contact. Because take a look at the left one. Do you have any perceptions of what you would think of her?
Yeah, really. She's picking her nails, I think.
Right, exactly, looking a little bored or shy
kind of
or
disengaged. Or you wouldn't
disengaged, exactly.
making the other person feel a little bit uncomfortable.
Versus the one on the right, exactly. So a combination to me of having good posture and good eye contact gives the best presence whenever you're speaking to someone. Otherwise, if I'm sitting here, you know, looking around or down, or I'm slouching, you know, it has a more sloppy
leg
look.
crossing thing?
Oh,
what
yeah.
was that?
Okay, since I've got my pants on,
Yeah.
it's called a figure 4, excuse me. So the idea like this, men do it most comfortable, you know, and it shows the soles of your feet facing right at a person,
Yes.
not to be done internationally. Very vulgar position.
Can you demonstrate
So
how
that's
a man
not,
should
that's an
a man can cross their legs with your toes facing down, but women, we cannot. You know, women should never cross their legs. So if anything, we can do the ankle cross, you know, or just one foot in front of the other, and that's just fine.
And what about the women who do that and then they do
Oh,
their
yeah,
little kick?
No.
Really bad.
What about the one where they?
Oh, yeah, that's just a nervous habit. Yeah.
So that's more of a. You see, they're talking. They're not. They're unaware, but that foot's going 1,000 miles an hour.
Yeah, it is a nervous habit.
That's bad.
So try to be aware of those
Absolutely.
little unconscious things that are going on about your body when you're talking.
Oh, and women, you know, are constantly going like that with their
Oh, the
hair all
hair?
the time. You
Oh,
know?
yeah, I love the
men,
hair.
I've seen them fidgeting with their ties.
How would they, especially when they have a hairdo that's always down in their eyes? So every couple of
like
seconds or
this.
so they're doing, and that's a no-no or
Very distracting.
So it's yes, it is. But
Exactly.
Well,
so I always recommend putting your hair away from your face because you want to have people see your face.
I think they're trying to call attention to themselves. I think it's all on purpose. At least the
of
people
course.
that I'm thinking of, I won't name names,
sure.
but they're well known.
Of course.
And I think that they're. I don't think it's nervousness. I think it's just they're calling attention to their beautiful hair or how much money they spend on their hairdo.
Right.
So, would you like to relate some of the comments that you've heard from children on their dining habits and maybe some suggestions on how we could improve on that?
Oh, right. I mean,
From your
it's-
seminars, right?
Of course. I mean, it's the whole idea that it's got to be reinforced at home. And that's why about 5 years ago, I started a program where I invite the parents to be an active participant in any of our youth and teen programs. Because it's great that they're sending them to the classes, but then if it's not reinforced at home, it's almost practically in one ear and out the other.
Or they themselves don't understand.
Exactly. The parents aren't even as aware. So it is the idea of, you know, just getting them to learn to sit still, hold their knife and fork properly, taking smaller bites, not the usual things. Don't talk with your mouth full, saying the pleases and thank yous, excuse me's, and all of those things.
Well, what I'm thinking more that I read in your book, I'm thinking more about the people that do not eat together.
Yeah.
This kind of thing, the patterns where, you know, they're in separate rooms or they're on the computer watching television. They just do not make time to get together. What is with that? You've heard that, right?
Oh, absolutely, and it's regrettable. And if all I can say is, I know of families that will set aside one day a week, and sometimes it's Fridays, that as the kids are getting older, you can even assign them the fun task of cooking the entire meal, setting the entire table. So Friday is kids, you know, cooking night. You get them a nice children's cook or a youth, younger, easier cookbook, and they pick out a recipe. Mom or dad can buy all the ingredients, and it's their duty to fix the meal for the night. It could be Saturday, Sunday, whatever day that you would like. And I think that's
a neat idea.
It's a good idea because you're not asking for the whole week.
Why didn't we think of that with our kids?
Exactly.
One day a week, and that's doable.
Right.
You know?
Right, and then you're not hammering them on them every night of the week, and they get so tired of it they tune you out. So it's dedicated to that one day, or it could, if it has to be one day a month, you know, whatever, every 2 weeks. But do set aside.
You empower your children to be a real
And mom and
active
dad
part.
has to behave too.
Well, yeah, actually, I was just going to say that. What about the families, unfortunately, who get together and use that for a good place for a battleground to correct people or criticize or, you know, really get nasty? I mean, what do you say about that? What could they do to stop? Could they do anything at all? I mean, do the kids
change
have
their
any...
attitude and the style of the tone of their voice? I mean, that it's not the what you say, it's the how you say it often. Because using it as a battleground, as I'm hearing you say, is never a good thing.
What could a young person say to their parents? What could they say if they were, you know?
I would say, gee, Mom or Dad, I hear what you're saying, but then you really make me not like it the way you're saying it. I don't know.
Just to maybe call attention. Maybe the people are not, the parents are not aware of it.
That's true.
And I think, like anything, it becomes like a habit.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
It's really bad.
Right.
Some of the things I've heard, yeah.
Let's talk about dating. You know, that young people, you know, dating for anybody is really difficult, especially the first date. At any age is very difficult.
Yeah.
What are some of the questions that you should ask your date? You know, appropriate questions, and then questions that aren't appropriate, especially when you don't know the person that well, or you just met them and you want to make an impression.
Sure.
I think it's awkward for anybody, but especially for a teenager that doesn't quite know what the
I always
proper
say
aspect.
that there's nothing wrong with sitting down in the privacy of your own home and writing down 5, 6 questions that you would enjoy
ahead
asking.
of time.
Ahead of time. So it can help you get over the nervousness of the beginning and all of that. Make the questions open-ended, you know, because dating is all about getting to know the other person and finding out what commonalities you may have and likes or dislikes. So if you're a person that really loves football, I wouldn't ask a question such as, oh, do you like football? You know, that's kind of self-defeating if she says no or he says no. But rather, what kind of sports do you enjoy? Any kind of sports, either playing or watching them? You know, what kind do you like and why? And whatever they answer, you take in as part of information, and then you get to share your own. Oh, for me, I really like football, you know, and so forth. So yeah.
So would it be questions that would imply that you're interested in the person?
Yes.
In other words, ask questions that shows that you're generally interested and want to know something about it. Because if you do phony type of questions, they're going to pick up on that.
Absolutely. And also sharing in return. So it's not just a one-way ask, but not reveal anything about yourself. So any question you ask, you should be willing to share a little bit back about yourself, I think.
Yeah.
So nothing too personal. But in a way, it's important for, I think, anyone, young at any age, to learn a little bit about the other person before you even ask them out on a date. So the younger the person, I think it's important to know a little bit about where they live, their family, and so forth. And when you pick them up, to make sure that you've got the directives from the parents. Oh, what time? So the boy could ask, what time does Susie have to be home tonight? You know, and respecting that. And things of that nature.
So instead of the father or the mother saying, now you're going to be sure you have Susie home at 11 o'clock. Before they haven't even a chance to say anything, you say, what time would you like for me to have Susie home?
Yeah, shows your sense of responsibility. Yeah.
Anything else that people should know on a first date? And I do mean at any age, because there's a lot of people older that are dating.
Oh, I think we've all been hearing so much about no means no, you know, in these days. So absolutely, that people have to respect and understand that, you know, in any case and any time. Say usually the girl, if she's uncomfortable and says, I'm sorry, I really would prefer going home now. That's where it goes, and the guy has to respect that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and likewise for both. The biggest thing is anytime either the boy treats the girl lousy or the girl treats the boy lousy, I think that's handwriting on the wall. Yeah. Because if she's doing that or he's doing it on the first date, I doubt if it's going to get any better after that. And that, you know, it kind of says something to you that we all have to be mindful of.
Well, sometimes, you know, people don't get beyond that first date.
Absolutely.
And there again, that probably brings all of this, you know, the way the person's dressed perhaps, or their mannerisms. I guess it all comes into play.
Yeah. Well, I guess on first dates I would focus a little bit. Well, of course, appropriate attire would be important. Nothing too revealing for the girl. You know.
Well, now that everybody's hooked to their machines, and they seem almost a compulsion. Wherever they go, they're constantly taking out.
I know.
And even when they're sitting down, we've gone to restaurants and that, and seen younger people, all sitting together, and they're all texting.
I love it. I know.
And nobody's looking at anyone else or talking.
Yeah. Why bother, huh?
Talking to them.
But
No.
we just recently talked to someone, and they said, "Well, I'm not offended by it.
I know.
You know, because it's kind of like the way
They're used to it.
They're used to it.
Heard.
They're not getting to know each other. They're talking. It's somebody else.
That really is
constantly.
one of my biggest pet peeves. In fact, my etiquette tip of the month this month is all about cell phones at the dining table.
At the dining table?
At the dining table especially. Never, ever should it be on the dining table. You should keep it in your pocket, in your purse, or whatever. If you're receiving an important call, sure, let it vibrate. And when you feel it, you're going to excuse yourself from the table and go outside to the lobby or in the hallway to take the call. But never, ever at the dining table.
How would you give a hint to somebody who's doing it at the table and you want them to stop? Or is there anything that you
I'd whisper and just say, "Oh, you might want to take that outside. You know, you'd probably be more comfortable," because they're usually having to, think about being quiet in reference to everybody else, and everybody else always has to stop talking because they don't want to be noisy to the person that's on the cell phone. So no.
Well,
that.
Yeah, that's, well, we've even gone to the theater or the movies even, where the person is so loud, they do get up and get out of their seat, but they're so loud you can hear them anyway, and very, very annoying.
Yeah, most theaters now tell you they've gotten to the point they say
signs.
turn it off for everybody. Yeah, it's
Well, that's when the show starts, but I mean even before it's very annoying.
Oh
if
yeah,
you're
before
trying to
the
have a
show starts,
it's really. Well, your etiquette tip of the month this time was really good too. It's on your website, and it stated that it's okay not to laugh at a sarcastic remark. So what should people do when they're exposed to a disrespectful remark? How should they handle it? What should they say?
Yeah. This came up by one of my readers in saying that there was one staff member in their office that always came out with sarcastic remarks in a way that they think they're joking, but yet, usually sarcastic remarks are against somebody else.
Yes.
And it always is harmful. So number one, you got to get, nip it by the bud, as they say, and get the person to understand that I know you may have thought you were just kidding, but, it really can hurt, Susie's feelings again. So number one, yes, don't laugh at it. Just say, gosh, I really don't think that was that funny. And if you're the manager, I would pull the person aside and again, say that, sarcastic remarks such as that is really not effective. That if you really don't like the person because of this, I would suggest that we can talk about it.
Well, it makes other people uncomfortable too.
It does.
And not the person who's, let's say, the blunt of the joke, but other people around. You're making them uncomfortable.
Exactly. So,
But I think the person that looks the worst is the one that's saying the remark in the first place.
They often aren't even aware of it, They think, like I said, that it's no big deal. They're just,
Funny. They
being
think it's funny.
Yeah. So just stay away from it is my biggest point.
Yeah.
Just don't even go there, ever.
So, on your seminars now, what do you focus on for young adults? It's all ages. We're talking like what, age 9?
On up
through?
Typically I do 9, but I have done them as young as 7. The only difference between 7 and 9 is physically a young person's hands aren't big enough to hold a knife and fork properly. So for the younger ones, you can basically focus more on all of the other aspects of table manners, the please, thank you, please pass the salt and pepper, things of that nature. By the time they're 9, they're old enough. They're going to sleepovers, understanding the ramifications if they don't do certain things. And they can hold the knife and fork So heavy on that, but then we emphasize posture. I'm a real stickler on posture. How to self-introduce themselves at parties when they don't know a soul.
Wow.
You know, is another one. We go through thank you notes. We go through proper introductions you were talking about earlier. How to introduce your mom and dad to your teacher or yourself even. And these are all things that we all do throughout the rest of our life, right?
And
Through
if they start out
interviews.
young,
Yes.
you know, that's really
they
nice.
they're 3 or 4 steps ahead of anybody else if they get a good start on it.
Exactly.
Well, you know,
so-
a lot of people really focus on the college and getting the grades and all that, but there's just not enough interest, I guess, in etiquette. Is that what's happening?
Actually, the pendulum is
It's starting to swing
Yes,
back.
especially by the time you get into college. So I do a lot of college and university programs throughout the Bay Area.
Good.
And the 2 modules I do is one is on, it's a combination of networking and interviewing skills, and the other one is on dining skills through that business lunch.
Yeah.
So that young people can feel comfortable.
Doing it.
Even for a
Yeah,
summer
'cause-
internship, they're taken out to lunch by the boss. Or you win Employee of the Month. I've heard horror stories about certain employees sitting next to the CEO at a breakfast when he was Employee of the Month and then just, you know, messing the whole thing up.
And it just doesn't know what to say and can, in the nervousness, and
Oh, yeah.
definitely say the wrong things.
Right, or do the wrong thing.
Oh, well, interviewing, that's such a tremendous subject.
Yeah. Teenagers handling, let's say, gifts that they receive, money gifts especially.
Oh, yeah.
They seem to, you know, it seems that sometimes they're either uncomfortable, they have a hard time with receiving money gifts, and it shows up in responding.
Right.
Thank you. It's
Right.
like, well, thank you for the nice card instead of thank you for the money or
Right.
card. Is it that they're just nervous or a little embarrassed because you've given them money, especially like a graduation
Right.
Yeah.
gift?
It's a combination of it all, but again, it stems from the parents. I'm sorry, it's how well the parents has indoctrinated the style of writing a thank you note early on. I mean, even if they're 6, by the time they can start writing, they can copy. You know, like mom and dad can type it out and then they can copy the note or write out a certain person, you know, most of it, and you can write the word thank you at least. But the idea that, yes, when you receive a card, like a graduation card, a card unto itself, you don't usually write a thank you note, but if there's money in it, yes. Gee, dear Aunt Sarah, thank you so much for the $50 iTunes card. You've got to be specific. You can't just say,
you just can't say
say the
thank you.
amount.
dear
or
Aunt
just-
Sarah, thank you very much for the
'Cause,
gift.
yeah.
I really love it. You know, no, doesn't cut it. So, and sometimes you can even say, gee, I look forward to, I've been wanting this specific album or whatever. As much as you can say that's positive about how you're going to use the funds is really great. And, you know, send it by regular mail because it doesn't need to
So
get there.
it's helping them getting over that self-conscious feeling, like they felt self-conscious about receiving the money and
Right.
don't know how to respond. And you
It's just
Yeah,
practice.
you should say, yeah.
Well, I think a lot of times, I know in our case, our children did write because we'd be breathing down their neck until they did. But once a child or a young adult, shall we say, gets a certain age, you have to just like cut them loose and see if they can do it. And that's where I see a lot of slipping, where mommy and daddy are not telling them to do it because they're too old, you know, and that's kind of sad right there. Now, what about when you're sending a physical thank you versus emails? What are the rules, the guidelines there?
I think there's a time and place for any and all of that, but you got to think, first of all, is it time urgent? And was there no other choice other than email, say? So for a job interview, say you went on a job interview on a Wednesday, and I do recommend sending thank you notes for job interviews, but you find out during that interview they're going to make a decision by Friday. Well, no way is a regular, you know, thank you note going to make it. So sure, send an email, but preface it. Knowing you're making a decision on Friday, I still wanted to at least let you know I appreciated your time and blah, blah, blah. So that lets the person know you would have done a regular note, but because of time, it prevented you from doing it. So then an email thank you note is certainly fine.
Now, any other, we got a couple minutes here.
Okay.
Any other thing that you would like people to know that we haven't covered that you really want people to know today, especially young adults?
Okay, okay. That I think the idea of manners do matter. It's the idea that it really sets you apart in ways that you don't even realize. I have heard so many stories about a young lady got her hotel job, her very first job out of college, because she was the only applicant that wrote a thank you note after her interview.
Oh,
I've heard of stories where a young lady who was a development officer with a nonprofit organization got a man to donate $25,000 to her organization. And when she asked him, gee, what were the reasons, what did I say that led you to want to donate to our organization? And his answer was, you were so nice to invite me out to lunch, and your table manners were so impeccable that I knew if anyone of your caliber, you know, wouldn't be working for like a schlocky organization or something. So, you know, it's the idea that manners are the silent, what would I say?
Silent voice.
Yeah, the silent tools or your, I'm trying to say
it's
the word
a communication.
You're telling a story about yourself.
Exactly.
You're saying
and how much who
you are, what about yourself, and what you represent in your manners and how you
how much you
present
care
yourself.
about yourself too.
So people learn a lot about you just by those manners, and it can be positive or it can be negative. And of course, you want it to be positive.
Of course.
So you have to go see Syndi, and she can show you how to be positive, right?
My pleasure.
Well, you have written, or actually, you wrote this book all the way, and then a couple chapters in each of these books.
Yes.
You also did Dummy for...
Business Etiquette for Dummies.
Okay, so
yeah, Wiley.
Well, there's just lots of information that Syndi has, and you can check the website for more information, and also find out what you can do to how you can interact people a little bit better by just being a little bit more courteous, and that's at any age. Have good manners at any age. Thanks for watching the show, and watch again. Maybe there's a polite way to say hello, goodbye.